and it's slow.
But let's just remember, too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
But where the Iranian regime is today in 2025 is nothing compared to the United States.
Hanging black people. So
it is not even the same. I couldn't step foot during this.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say. It is the same.
No, it's not. The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit in Toronto.
I'm sorry.
I can't have my hair showing. I can't wear a skirt. I can't have my arms out.
I'm telling you,
I literally
think of Whoopi Goldberg saying it's worse to be a black person in America today than a woman in Iran. I say we were talking about the trans issue before, and the New York Times really has come over on that to the sort of the sensible, liberal, not crazy woke position. I think this is a great first step toward getting the Democrats back to sanity, and a second good step would be we got to do something about The View. I really believe that. I mean, could you just
it's huge in Iran, though.
boy. So we got to talk about the cackling hens on The View, who are actually getting some backlash from liberals like Bill Maher, okay? Because The View, their viewpoint apparently is too crazy for mainstream audiences, right? And this is something that people are realizing that, hey, maybe, just maybe, this show is not doing a good service towards the Democrat Party, right? It's not making the Democrats look like sane people, right? And I think that is what Bill Maher and other liberals who are not as Trump deranged as these people are realizing, that The View does more harm than good. And it just so happens that the cackling hens on The View got confronted on this idea that they're responsible, particularly Sonny Holston, who's probably the wokest among the woke on The View, being responsible for Kamala losing, right? And Trump winning the election. And again, this is a fascinating conversation because I think people are acknowledging that maybe, just maybe, The View is not a good thing for the Democrat Party and liberal politics. Now, before we get into this clip, I just want to go ahead and play a flashback clip here of Sonny confronting Kamala Harris on what she would do differently than Joe Biden, because essentially there is a thought process or a school of thought that suggests that this moment right here is when Kamala lost the election. And again, she lost because of what she said on The View, being asked this question by Sonny Holston, who is a huge Kamala Harris fan. That is like the hilarious part about all this. Take a look.
Well, if anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Yeah, so even the cackling hens on The View acknowledged that was not a good moment for Kamala, and that might have been what lost her the election. Now, I want to talk about it because I don't think that moment lost her the election, but it definitely was not a good moment for Kamala Harris. And I think that appearance on The View definitely did not help Kamala. And it's just funny to watch the cackling hens realize that they are responsible for Kamala losing. So without further ado, let's get into it.
All right. The last time we sat down for a live podcast, it was October 8th of last year. It feels like longer. Wow. But it was a month before the presidential election. And it happened to be the day that former Vice President Kamala Harris joined our table for an interview. Oh. It made quite a bit of news, created some viral moments. I guess I'll start with Sonny.
Sonny ruined it. It's Sonny's fault she didn't win.
Sonny, we can't ignore the fact that you may have single-handedly taken down the Democratic Party. Some would say democracy itself. With one question that you asked Vice President Harris about what she would do differently than President Biden, how President
Y'all
Harris...
remember that?
Yeah.
Hard to forget.
Take me back to that moment and
How hard did you think that question was going to be?
Well, did you know instantly that this was going to be meaningful the way she answered it?
I knew it instantly when she answered it, which is why I
asked a follow-up question. Yeah. Is there one thing? You know, because I knew, I could see the soundbite and I knew what was going to happen. But I thought it was a really fair question, and I thought it was a question that she would expect.
It wasn't a gotcha question.
By any means.
Yeah, it was a fair question. It was a very basic question that Kamala Harris should have been prepared for, right? Again, the question was so basic that even The View asked her the question. Now, you know that The View, they didn't want to ask Kamala Harris any hard questions. We already knew that would be a softball interview, right? So nobody expected The View to ask Kamala Harris hard questions. But Kamala was just so bad, right? She was so terrible as a candidate. And she just really didn't want to say anything at all, that she fumbled on what should have been a pretty easy question, right, for Kamala Harris. But then again, you had Joe Biden behind the scenes telling her that there can be no daylight between her and Joe Biden, right? The policies of the Biden-Harris administration, right? So in that moment, Kamala may have felt that, hey, I can't throw Biden on the bus, right? I can't come out here and say that, well, I would, close the border, or that I would be tougher on the border, or that they made a mistake when it comes to inflation, or, some of the spending that Democrats did and the lockdowns. Like, there's a lot of mistakes. There are a lot of things that she could have said that would have been good answers, right? Because the whole point was to show, hey, how are you different than Joe Biden? How are you different than the most unpopular president that we've had in a long, long, long time, right? Which, again, Kamala Harris needed to differentiate herself, because ultimately Biden's approval rating at that point in time was under the water, right? And if she failed to differentiate herself, then people would just see her as another Joe Biden. But she couldn't do it, right? She clearly was not prepared to answer that question, even though it was a very basic question. And it's just hilarious that that question was asked on The View. Like, The View is what ultimately undermined Kamala Harris. Now, I don't think it's the reason why she lost, right? Okay, I think that was the beginning of the downfall of Kamala Harris, because, again, that occurred at the beginning of October, right? Everybody remembers when Kamala first got into the race back in the beginning of August. August through September, it was Kamala mania, right? It was, oh, Kamala's amazing, she's great. And she kept avoiding doing interviews, right? Until her poll numbers started to slip, because, again, she wasn't doing interviews, right? People didn't know what she really stood for, what she wanted to do, how she could differentiate herself from Joe Biden. And when she was forced to start doing interviews, people realized, oh, wait, Kamala sucks, right? She is terrible. We do not want her leading this country, okay? And that interview with The View, again, I think was kind of the beginning of her campaign really tanking, right? And that question, I think, was the nail in the coffin. It wasn't necessarily why she lost. It was just one of the many death nails that happened to her campaign. And that I think that's just what it was, right? And again, it's just hilarious for the Cackling Hens to realize that, damn, our candidate was so bad that she wasn't even prepared for a super basic question in which they were not trying to get gotchas, right? They were not trying to make Kamala look bad, right? If anything, they were trying to make her look good. And she was so terrible that she couldn't even answer a very basic question like that.
Shouldn't have been a gotcha question.
But I think we ask tough questions because I think our viewers want to hear those answers,
yes.
Right? And Barbara Walters asked tough questions. Yes. And so I just felt that that's something that she needed to do, differentiate what a Harris administration would look like.
Yeah, but see, that's not a tough question, right? It was only tough for Kamala because she didn't want to throw Biden under the bus. But in general, it's not a tough question if you're trying to win an election, right? You need to acknowledge reality. All it took for her is just to say, yeah, we messed up on X, Y, and Z. That's all it took. It was a very easy question. But see, in modern day politics, politicians don't ever want to admit when they're wrong, right? They don't ever want to admit when they do something bad or when they need to improve, right? And I think that is ultimately what undermined her, because the answer to that question suggested that she wasn't living in the reality that the American people are not happy with Joe Biden. So again, it wasn't a tough question. It was a very easy question. It was a basic question that, again, if the campaign was willing to distance themselves from Joe Biden, then she could have easily answered that question, right? It was an easy answer, but she wasn't willing to do that.
Opposed to a Biden administration, and she didn't have the answer that I expected. I expected her answer to be something like, we have won. We have this win, this win, this win, this win. We've been more successful than any other administration in decades. And so I intend to build on those wins. But of course, I'm going to be different because I'm a woman of color. I'm a child of immigrants. I'm a lawyer. I'm going to do things differently through my life experience. But I mean, doesn't that sound like a good answer? Like, I just assumed that was the answer, and then I didn't get that.
No, that was not a good answer, which is why the audience didn't agree, right? I mean, what Sonny is saying, again, this is why Bill Maher is right in the sense that, yes, like, if the Democrat Party is going to revive itself, they have to ditch the view, because this is just delusion right here, right? What Sonny is saying is that, well, don't say that you did anything bad or that you made any mistakes, right? Don't say that. Just say that everything you did was good, which, again, is the opposite of how the American people feel, right? So again, gaslight the American people and then turn around and say, well, I'm going to be different because I'm black, right? I'm a woman of color. I'm a lawyer, right? I'm an attorney. And it's like, well, that's not a real reason why you're different. What you're saying is that you're different because of your identity. That's what Sonny is saying. What she's saying is that, well, go out there and play identity politics, right? You should have leaned on, you being a woman of color and that's going to make it different. And it's like, no, not being a straight white male is not enough, right? That's not going to win you an election. I got a vagina. I'm half black, half Indian, right? Vote for me. That doesn't win you elections. It doesn't win you elections. So Sonny's answer that she suggested for Kamala might have actually been worse than Kamala's answer that she gave, which just showed you how delusional, like, the cackling hens are, right? It shows you that these people are not living in reality. They're not living in reality. And when you have a show like this that is a modern day representation of the Democrat Party, right? That is a mouthpiece for the Democrat Party. When people watch The View, they say, oh, well, this is how Democrats think, right? And they're essentially pushing Democrats, right, on these issues, right? They're pushing Democrats to think this way. That's bad, right? It's extremely toxic. And again, that's what I'm trying to say. Bill Maher is right. He's on to something. He's like, yeah, like if they took The View off air, that might actually help the Democrats. It might act because you don't have these Looney Tunes that are completely out of touch, basically trying to present their viewpoints as viewpoints that are representative of the Democrat Party, right? Their platform. Yeah, they don't align with a vast majority of the American people, right? That's not going to appeal to a vast majority of people. It might appeal to a subset of, again, woke, indoctrinated women, right? Who, again, are, more people than we think, right? It's not a small group of people, but again, it's not the majority, right? It's definitely not the majority. They're sick and tired of what Sunny Holston is pushing here, right? She's saying, well, the Democrats should have relied more on identity. That's why Kamala lost, right? That's part of the reason why she lost. So, it's very fascinating how out of touch these people really are when it comes to the fact is that they're not politically savvy, right? Like, everything they recommend is actually bad, right? Everything they advocate for is part of the reason why the Democrats lost and why they will continue to lose.
And now Jake Tapper wrote it in his book?
It's honestly in every 2024 recap book is kind of the moment. But it speaks terrible. No, it speaks to how you are in the history books. It speaks to how important this show is, though. It is where presidential candidates come and make their way, or they fail and don't meet the moment.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up, Brian.
No problem. Here's another question. Do you guys believe that really did change the election? I don't think so.
I don't think it was
No, right?
No.
I think it played a role.
Yeah.
The Trump campaign put so much ad money behind that specific clip, and what they were trying to do is tie her to Biden's unfavorabilities, but more than that, just simply the right track, wrong track of the election.
Yeah.
So even people who might be kind of neutral on Biden, it was something like 67% of the country felt like the country was going the wrong way. So they used it to say, well, she's not going to do anything different. Yeah. It wasn't any one thing, but they really were able to use it.
It was not only separating her, didn't separate her from Biden, it also was fueling the narrative, like, she doesn't know what she's doing. Like, what does she stand for? She doesn't think it, and it just, like, gave them the commercial.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah. So, congratulations, Sonny. Right? You're your own worst enemy, right? Your extremism, your identity politics, your wokeness. Yes, you contributed to the Democrats losing, okay? And again, this is why when people say, oh, The View should be taken off air, and I'm like, I don't know, right? There's a reason why when I make recommendations for how The View could be a better show, I never really recommend that they take away Sunny, right? And the reason why is because she does have a certain viewpoint. The woke, extreme, far left, like woman on social issues, right? That basically is a cheerleader for the Democrat Party and whatever type of, progressive policies they're putting out there, like the Looney Tunes stuff. Her voice actually should be represented, right? That voice should be projected, and people should be saying, yes, this is where the Democrat Party is. That's what Republicans and conservatives should be saying, right? So yeah, I mean, I think that her voice actually is a blessing to the Republican Party, to the GOP, to the conservative movement. And you just saw exactly why, right? Because the way she thinks turns off people, right? Now, when it comes to everybody else, like, for example, Alyssa Ferry Griffin and Anna Navarro, they can get rid of one of them. They're redundant, right? They're redundant at this point. They're both Trump deranged, so-called Republicans, even though there's nothing Republican or conservative at all about Anna Navarro. When it comes to Joy Behar, delusional liberal white woman, I guess, she adds a little bit of value. Whoopi, I think, is experienced a little bit of Joe Biden, right? I think that the elevator doesn't go all the way to the top floor with Whoopi, right? I think she's losing it upstairs, to be honest with you, okay? Most of the time, she's incoherent. I don't think she really knows what she's talking about, which is why, for that reason, she thinks that it is worse to be a black person in America than a woman in Iran, which, again, just really blows my mind, right, that she said on national television. But, yeah, I mean, Sarah Hayes, she's irrelevant, right? Completely irrelevant. So I'm just saying that, Sunny does have a certain voice that I think helps the Republicans, it helps conservatives, helps Trump, and it hurts the Democrat Party. And I think Bill Maher is onto something when he talks about how The View is toxic and the Democrats need to do something about it, because, again, it really does not help them at all, the wild things that are said on that show. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.